What's up, y'all? This is Dr. Jewel, and I am so excited to partner with Yes Lord Radio in my new radio show, Ask Dr. Jewel. I'm a doctor of nursing, a professor, a clinician, and your go-to for all things pertaining to mental health, mental wellness, and mental illness. Look, y'all, just call me America's MHS, Mental Health Specialist. So look, you all, it's time. It's time to get your minds right with Ask Dr. Jewel. Yo, what's up? I have Lady V in the house.
Hey,
and I
everybody.
Also have Sydney B.
What's
Thank
going on?
you so much for coming back again and joining us for this segment of Ask Dr. Jewel. We're going to go back. We're going to go back and talk about what happened in Nashville, Tennessee a couple of weeks ago when we had a school that had a shooter that killed 3 kids and 3 adults. Some of you may be saying, Dr. Jewel, why are we talking about this? I want to erase it. Well, unfortunately, we cannot erase the trauma. We cannot erase the visual. We cannot erase all of the news articles and facts that are coming out about this traumatic event. We also can't erase the fact that there are teachers that have to go back into schools. We have students that have to go back into schools, and we can't erase that they come with a lot of emotions and feelings about doing that. So on today's Ask Dr. Jewel, we're going to talk about anxiety, fear, all of the things that those students in our last segment talked about, ways that they were feeling, how they were processing this traumatic event. And we want to give you all tools as leaders, educators, parents about what we can do to help our kids and our teachers mentally and emotionally. So come back, tune back in to Ask Dr. Jewel, because it's time to get your minds right. So we're back with Lady V and Sydney B. Look, Sydney, I need to hear your voice as we start chopping it up about the tragedy that happened here in Nashville, Tennessee, in our schools. 3 children dead, 3 adults dead. We've got to talk about it. Look, one thing about mental health and wellness, we've got to learn how to talk about these things and provide a safe and supportive environment for us to talk about all things pertaining to mental health and wellness, our feelings, good, bad, and different. We've got to provide avenues to talk about it. So Sydney, after you listen to all of those testimonies from those kids, again, a vantage point that we don't get. We never stop to say, kids, what are you feeling? Tell me, as an educator, how did their responses impact you?
Absolutely. So after the event happened, there was an immediate triage. I mean, we were really taking into account the mental health and wellness of these children the week after. There were coloring pages, weighted blankets, quiet spaces, essential oils, diffusers, but those supports began to be removed as time went on. However, you would not remove an academic support from a child just because it was closer to May and the end of the year than it was to August in the beginning. If that child gets extended time, they get it in October, they get it in January, they get it in May. If that child gets other accommodations for their mind in an academic context, they get those accommodations all year. So what I'm saying is, why on earth are we removing the scaffolds and accommodations that children get for their mental health because, it's 2 weeks removed, it's 3 weeks removed? Because sometimes the aftershock that children face is even greater than that initial hit. So if my children begin to experience those aftershocks, I don't care if it's 4 weeks later and now you need that coloring page. I don't care if it's been a month, but now in this moment, you need that quiet space and that weighted blanket. And we need to dim the lights because you're overstimulated and you're on sensory overload. I'll do it and I'll do it again because trauma does not have an expiration date.
That's right.
And that's the thing that we're experiencing right now. And that is the thing that I have been reminded of through the process of working with these students who were so gracious with their hearts and their bravery and their time. Trauma truly does not have an expiration date. And so as an educator and as a safe person for them, I need to be ready to give them what they need in and out of season.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So well stated. So well stated, Sydney. You know, with trauma, especially when you're dealing with a young mind, a brain, trauma can reroute the way your brain functions. You know, I look at the brain as a huge highway, and it really, traumatic events can really rewire the way that you start thinking. And so what happens is that I end up getting adults 25, 30 years old who are still dealing with a traumatic event that happened when they were children. Your brain does not fully develop until you're in your mid to upper 20s. And so as a result, we're asking these young minds to process such an egregious trauma. I mean, they are seeing the footage, the person walking into a school shooting, and we're saying, you know what? Okay, it's done. We need for your brain to continue to focus the way that it was, like this never happened. And I think, Sydney, too, I think what we need to look at is that just because you were not there in the school does not mean that trauma cannot impact you. Hearing about trauma, having a loved one that has experienced trauma, and you being inundated with that can cause problems. Another thing that we're doing, Sydney, you know, sometimes we are overexposing our kids. What do you think about that as an educator? We're just letting them see everything, deal with everything, no limits, no boundaries. They're looking at social media. They're looking at TV. You've got it up 100 times flashing in front of them. What can we do as parents? What are you seeing? How is that impacting our kids when they come to school, Sydney? What are the grades looking like? Come on, talk to us about it from an educator's perspective.
Absolutely. My students are at the age where they are more susceptible to developing body dysmorphia because the bodies that they're seeing on TikTok, on Instagram, it's not real. It's Photoshop. It's fake. And so they think that there's something wrong with them. As far as these tragic incidents, what they're seeing, the violence, they're becoming desensitized to it. And I have to constantly explain that life is precious. You do not just respawn. You do not just get an extra life. There is no cheat code to this. When it's done, it's done. And so getting that concept into the minds of children when they are constantly having that concept of the finality of life combated on TikTok, on Instagram, on Roblox, and all of these things and all these places where the value of life is diminished because you can say whatever you want to say through a screen, and you can remove and attempt to strip someone of their dignity and their humanity seemingly with no consequences by just sending a DM or going into the comments section and saying all of these derogatory things. You remove their humanity. You remove the natural consequences that come when you speak to someone like that. And all of a sudden the value of life decreases. And that escalating is how we get to a point that we arrived at on that tragic day in March. The value of life had just been so decreased.
And you know, we look at it as far as anxiety, as far as depression, and we look at the alarming numbers, the increase in the numbers of children and adolescents with anxiety, with depression. And a lot of people ask, you know, did this happen as a result of the pandemic? You know, did this happen as a direct result of that? And what I would say is that the pandemic just brought it to pass. But when it just brought it to light, if you will, because again, a lot of kids, we're dealing with the aftermath. So look, you've got trauma on top of trauma. I'm talking about compound, baby. That's what I'm talking about. So look, you're talking about trauma of a pandemic. Okay, because we still erase that like that didn't happen. Okay, just because people aren't dying at record numbers doesn't mean that we still don't have COVID. It doesn't mean that erased all of those events from the minds of a child. There are children that lost multiple parents, family members.
Yes.
I mean, at record numbers, they were isolated, could not go out. Everyone was in fear and panic. So here you go. These kids, all right, they are thinking about that, okay, that still hasn't erased. That's still in their minds. Okay, so now we've dealt with people dying by a virus that they cannot see, don't understand, didn't have any type of vaccines or anything for it initially, all right? And all we're seeing is death numbers rising across the world, okay? Everybody is operating out of a spirit of fear. Then all of a sudden we come in here and we've got people going into schools, going into buildings, going into banks, shooting up people. Like, I mean, compound trauma.
And let's not forget church.
Come on now.
The
come
place
on.
where I'm supposed to feel safe, and they're now coming into the churches and shooting up
and
people.
Shooting
minimizing
up people,
life.
Okay? Compound trauma. But the thing about a child is that oftentimes they don't have the words, the language. They have a immature feeling language. So that look, what they do, they respond in different ways. It's not that they're not responding, but what they're doing, they're becoming more clingy. They're becoming a little bit more isolated. They're a little bit more nervous. They're scared to go out. They don't want to do things. And so you're hearing it in their language. Don't you want to go out? No, it's okay, and so they're isolating. They're not going out. They're altering their lives as a result of some things that are going on in their minds that they're processing, some of them inappropriately. So we have to teach our children how to be resilient. We've got to teach them how to lean into all of the beautiful, positive things that are going on in their lives and around them, in spite of some of these other things. We have to foster resilience. You have to reinforce your child's strengths, their coping skills, their positive aspects of their lives so that they can take a hold of that and then engage activities that will continue to foster that strength. And so we've got to start talking about these things. Sydney, tell me this, okay? So in the schools, as a result of these things, tell me, how is it affecting extracurricular activities? How is it affecting grades? Are you seeing a direct correlation with kids not turning in work, kids coming to school sleepy, tired, not sleeping at night? Tell me what you're seeing out here on these streets and schools.
Absolutely. I love what you said about processing inappropriately, because I have found that what you do not explain to a child explicitly, you'll explain to them implicitly. And so children are getting knowledge from you either way. But if you do not explicitly sit that child down and give them language and context for what's happening through your actions, through your aversion of the topic, you are implicitly explaining to them what has happened, because their brains are growing so quickly and your actions are building their brains just as much as your words.
Absolutely.
And so what's happening now is children are creating context on their own because no one is talking about it, and they're processing inappropriately.
Absolutely.
So we have children falling asleep. We have children late to track practice, forgetting simple things. I left it at home. I don't have it today. I left the house. I didn't eat breakfast. Okay, we have children acting in ways that they have never acted. Students who are usually very intrinsically motivated are now asking for a deeper why. Why do I need to learn this? How is this going to help me? Questions that we do have an obligation to answer. Because I told you so is no longer enough. You're going to school because you have to is no longer enough, because behind that I don't want to go to school is a deep reason. And if we don't dig for that reason, not only are we denying their experience as a learner, we're denying their experience as a person living in a fallen and broken world.
That's right.
So when your child tells you, I don't want to go to school, it's time to interrogate that. It's time to pull it apart. Maybe it's just they want to be with you. Because I tell parents all the time, 90% of the time, I spend more time with your student than you do.
That's right.
Because of work, because of before school, after school, and by the time, especially waking hours, because you come home, you do your homework, dinner routine, a little bit of family time, and it's time to go to bed. And so maybe your child is just craving connection in an uncertain world. But all of these behaviors that may be new, they may look like regressions, social regressions, academic regressions. This is not a regression. This is a response.
Yes.
And you have to give them the language. Your children are not regressing. They're growing. They're taking in new stimuli, new information, but they don't have context for it because we are not building it explicitly.
Come on now. When you talk about regressions, let's talk about that. Flesh that out. So what are they doing, Sydney? Because we want everybody to know when you see these signs and symptoms in your children, you know, where it should raise a flag, okay?
Absolutely.
So what regression? Come on, talk about it.
Yes. So when you consider that child who's usually so neat and orderly, nothing out of place, and now their room is an absolute mess. When you consider that child who usually can sit through a lesson or can even just sit through a 30-minute family dinner, and now they need to get up from the table, they need to be excused, they need to leave class, they need to go to the bathroom, they need to get another drink of water, they cannot sit still. When you consider that child who usually is very, very respectful, very, very responsive, first time asked, they have that immediate agreeance, obedience, and even compliance when it's necessary, but now they're questioning authority. Now they're saying, why do I have to do this? Now they're becoming an aggressor at school and even in the home. These are the behavioral, the social, and even the academic regressions when you consider the child who never forgets their folder, always has their homework finished, and now they haven't done their homework in 3 nights. They're falling asleep in class. These are the behavioral, academic, and social regressions that I'm seeing. And there's a certain way to respond to this. It cannot be purely punitive. That's not helpful in this time. So parents and teachers have to respond in a more culturally responsive and trauma-informed way to all of these behaviors.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much for bringing that up. You know, the child that's all of a sudden they're trained. They don't have any problems going to the bathroom on themselves, and all of a sudden they start going to the bathroom on themselves. I mean, these are behaviors that, you know, like you said, they were doing well. They were developmentally right where they needed to be, right there in the pocket, and all of a sudden they start regressing to different things that they did before they reached that developmental milestone. And so, you know, you have to look at that, but you have to be very, very sensitive to that. So one thing I need for you to do as educators, as teachers, as parents, is be able to address the underlying stressor. You've got to get to the root of the problem. So therefore, you've got to start having open dialogue and discussion in a non-threatening place and way that they can explain to you and express to you what their feelings are, how they're feeling. You've got to get to the stressor. If you don't remember anything else, get to the stressor. Get that child, if they continue in this pattern, please get that child to a mental health professional.
Yes.
Let us work through the logistics. Let us ask the questions. Let us get them psychotherapy so we can kind of dig through, peel back that onion and figure out why the change. But guess what? In order for you to get to why the change, you have to see the change. All right. So that means that we have to be present. We have to be in tune. We have to be sensitive to their needs. When something like this happens, any trauma happens, you need to keep your 3rd, 4th, and 5th eye on that child. Okay. Everybody needs to have an alarm looking at the kids just to make sure that their behaviors, some of the things that they are doing that's out of the norm, aren't falling through the cracks, Sydney.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so if we are all hyper vigilant, if we're all aware, very sensitive, assessing the time, and then seeing how could it possibly impact our kids, then we can do a better job at meeting and addressing their needs.
Absolutely.
So, you know, we want to be able to do that, sympathizing with them, and then making sure that we provide culturally relevant care, not assuming that what's wrong with you? You know, I've seen that, Sydney, you know, I've seen kids regress, and the first thing the parents do, they jump down their throats, okay?
Right.
They beat the kid. What? No, what is going on? I mean, they go off. I need you, parent, if that is you, please exercise some self-compassion. You are learning, okay? But know if your kids start doing some abrupt changes. When you start abrupt changing, okay? You start popping off and doing some stuff that you used to not do. You better assess what is stressing you, that boss, that family member, what is going on, because you're not the same. Please transfer that same thought to your children, okay? To your loved ones. Assess what is going on. Try to get to the root of it. Something may have happened. I'm telling you, I deal with kids and a lot of things happen that they're not telling you. So be that comfy couch.
Exactly. You know, these kids, they need space and grace.
I love that. And then, you know, you made a comment about hearing them, okay, and how you filter, because as parents, you know, we have this thing, if a child is saying, you know, I hate school, and they've always loved school, okay, but they're using, well, you shouldn't hate anything, and why are you saying that in school, you know, and then you go into this correction mode of trying to sell them on school. What are they actually really saying? Do they really hate school? Do they hate the fact of the fear and the anxiety that they have as a result of what could possibly happen, you know, to them? And so it's hearing through it's hearing through a different type of ear. You know, managing anxiety in children after traumatic experiences, it really requires compassionate and supportive approach. And that's what you're talking about, Sydney. You know, providing a safe and supportive environment. You know, a place where children feel comfortable expressing their thoughts and emotions without any judgment. And that's what we're talking about. You know, letting them be free to express what they want to express in the way that they want to express it, because it encourages open communication. And you know, we have to actively listen to to their concerns, because the thing is that we've got to put down the social media. We've got to stop being so distracted so that we can actually stop and be present and hear them, and letting them know really that it's okay to be anxious or scared after a traumatic experience, you all. And I think that we need to really lean into that, because again, after something like this happens, you have to let them know, I understand. You can't go in and act like these kids are superheroes. God does not give us a spirit of fear. And you know, you go into them, you know, with all of these things. These kids need to know that, hey, fear is real. God created us with a fear mechanism. So we have to deal with that and really make this thing very human, being very sensitive to
and
them.
Break some cultural norms.
Yes.
I know that I'm African American, and I know sometimes in our community, kids are to be seen and not heard. And now we have to get to the place where now we're actually listening to them.
That's
absolutely
right.
Like seriously, as their mothers, as their parents, as their teachers, leaders, we gotta listen.
Yeah, we gotta validate their emotions.
But Dr. Jewel, I have one question, because I know we're heavily with the kids, and this is to you, Miss Sydney. I was listening to the news the other day, and they said that one of the things that they would like is for the teachers now to be armed with guns. I heard that. Like, I'm not even playing with you. And I know we're focused on the kids, but just this one little section right here that we're going to talk about right now. How do you feel if they was to make a law or some type of rule that says you as an instructor have to pack? You have to carry a Glock. You have to be packing when you go to school. How do you feel about that?
Fully fund schools. If you don't trust me with your budget, if I have to hunt down copy paper, if there aren't enough parapros in the building for me to go to the bathroom after I've been teaching on my feet for 8 hours, take care of those needs first. Don't give me a gun. Give my children science books with updated information.
Come on.
Don't give me a gun. Make one-to-one technology the standard in Metro Nashville public schools and beyond. Don't give me a gun. Give my ELL students a shot by standing by them while they're taking their WIDA exam, by giving them extended time and accommodations. Why on earth would you arm me with a gun when you haven't armed them with pencils?
That's
Why would you arm me with a gun when you haven't armed each and every school in each and every district with a budget that fulfills
That's
the
right.
demographic needs and requirements for that cluster or zone of schools.
That's right.
Why are
Equity.
you giving me a gun when not every child can get on a bus and go to a place where they can eat a healthy meal? And if they need clothes, they can go to a clothing closet and get what they need in their size, and it's clean and it's available.
That's right.
You'll give me a gun, but you won't give me a raise.
Come on.
You'll give me
Wow.
a gun,
Right.
but you won't give me a voice.
Come on.
Wow.
You're not going to
Come
let me
on.
walk into your meetings. You're letting all of these people who have never taught a child in their life make decisions about me and tell me what I'm worth.
That's right.
Wow.
My colleagues and I stand on our feet for hours loving your children. My colleagues and I have gone to hell and back for your children. We take them home from practice. We wash their jackets. We clean the throw up off of their desks. We give them our fruit out of our backpacks because they didn't eat breakfast. Don't give me a gun. Respect me.
Come on.
Wow.
Come on.
Respect
Yes.
me and
Yes.
respect my children
Wow.
and honor them
That's right.
and change.
Come on.
Wow.
Hey.
Sydney for president.
Hey,
She's got my vote.
hey,
I'm voting for her.
I'm telling you. I mean, just Rich, thank you so much for sharing that perspective. You know, again, we're just trying to put things, it's so much to wrap our heads around, but I just hope that you are hearing from us the passion, the issues at hand and what we have to address. You know, as far as our kids, we need to address them and their mental health. We also have to address our teachers, our educators who are on the front line passionately and with excellence doing what they do for our kids, yet in these environments that they don't have what they need. They're seeing disparities, they're seeing lack of equity, and then they're not even treated fairly as educators, people giving them what they need to do their job appropriately. And so many things around this discussion, but I want to end with this. Thank you so much for that vantage point, Sydney. Thank you for sharing. What do we want to leave with? Tools for our educators, for our parents. I just want to leave with a couple of things, and you all vibe back and forth with me, okay? I want to say, we want to teach our kids coping skills. We've got to teach them age-appropriate coping skills to manage their anxiety. We need to start teaching deep breathing. So some of the things that we need to learn and that we need to practice and really give to our kids: deep breathing exercises, progressive muscle relaxation, mindfulness exercises, and encourage them to practice these techniques. We've got to, once we see our kids escalated, we need to be able to learn healthy ways to kind of draw their minds back into a calm state so that they can learn appropriately. And then, just encourage healthy self-care. Like you said, Sydney, staying physically fit, getting them out for exercise, nutritious meals, making sure these babies are sleeping. Very, very important. Providing distractions, engaging children in activities. You talked about that, Sydney, taking them outside, doing activities that are relaxing, enjoyable, fun, playing with things.
away.
We've got to do that. Put that screen away. And first and foremost, validate their emotions, you all. Their emotions matter, okay? You need to let them know that it's normal to feel the way that you feel, and we're okay. Let's work through it. So I hope that you all have gotten something from this. I hope that you've learned something from this, and that at least it'll start you thinking, okay? It will start you thinking, but we need to continue to have these discussions. Sydney, what you think about us bringing some students here, college students, because we're hearing things, right
Let's
over at
do
one
it.
of our universities, we're having students that are, succumbing to suicide. We're having so many things that have happened. We've got to bring our students here and talk to them. So you all, any final words, any thoughts?
This is just a great show. We heard from the babes. We heard from their mouths. And we just need to focus more on them instead of on arming teachers with guns and not, red flagging things. Let's focus on our kids.
That's right. The bureaucracy. We need to
Absolutely.
cut that.
Yeah.
Sydney, what you have?
Absolutely. When you stop listening, you stop learning.
There you go.
So let's listen
Let's
so we can
open.
learn something.
That's right. Open our ears and open our hearts, open our minds, okay? And so, because our minds matter. You all, thank you so much for this rich discussion, and thank you for bringing it to us, Sydney. And we look forward to continuing to chop it up with you on Ask Dr. Jewel. Please visit us on Ask Dr. Jewel, and we have a YouTube station. Please visit that for additional episodes so you can go back and listen to them. And I just want to say thank you to Yes Lord Radio. We love you and appreciate you. So you all continue to get your minds right. All right, tune into our next show with Ask Dr. Jewel. Bye.
Bye.